Good evening. My name is Jim Greenblatt. Really pleased to introduce our webinar tonight with Dr. Kalis. But before I introduce Dr. Kalis, I wanted to share a little bit about Psychiatry Redefined. I hope you take some time to look through Psychiatry Redefined website. We set up an online platform with webinars and courses and a 2-year fellowship in integrative and functional medicine for mental illness. And we've been supervising and training doctors now for 5 years. I've been doing it for about 25 years and wanted a forum that extended the functional integrative community into a focus for mental health and mental illness. So the fellowship, as you see here, is hundreds of hours of educational content where you can listen on your own. And then we have twice a month group supervision. We have a listserv where individuals can communicate, ask questions day and night, and we're all online trying to support and help each other. But really pleased in our kind of tradition of helping expand our treatment toolbox for those struggling with mental illness to introduce Dr. Kalis. Sudha Kalis is an MD, PhD. She had a PhD in neuroscience and is triple boarded in pediatrics, child and adult psychiatry in 2011 from Mount Sinai. So Dr. Kalis was raised in a Hindu household, steeped in the purifying and tonifying vibrations of Vedic wisdom. She describes herself as a holistic psychiatrist, spent her early years in Gallup, New Mexico, soaking up the traditions of the Dene Nation, along with her ancestral heritage. Dr. Kalis is available for consultations and treatment in Santa Fe, New Mexico. She's extensive training in Eastern and Western modalities and brings a really vast array of neuroscience knowledge, biochemistry, hypnotherapy, and therapeutic modalities stemming from the vast and ancient wisdom of Vedic sciences, yoga, Ayurvedic, and Vedic astrology. So really pleased to introduce and looking forward to hearing Dr. Kalis this evening. Welcome, Dr. Kalis.
Thank you, Dr. Greenblatt, for that very thoughtful and generous introduction. And thank you also to Heather for setting up today. So again, I thank you all for being here with me this evening to speak on Ayurveda of the Mind, Yoga Psychology. And I would like to start with a definition of what these two words mean, what they ascribe. Ayurveda translates literally as the science of life. So Veda is a science and Ayur is life. And while we in the West are quite familiar with yoga as an asana practice, a movement, an energetic exercise practice, it's truly a way of life, a philosophy, a philosophical way of life. And when put in practice is therefore a psychology. So yoga is psychology. And through the wisdom of yoga, I'll invite us to begin with an experiential practice. This here that we see on the screen right now is a yantra. A yantra is a geometrical form that is a tool that is used for yogic practice. And the way that we utilize this tool is to focus on the bindu, that's the red dot in the center. And as we focus on that red dot in the center, we use an open focus awareness. So what we're using right now is dharana, concentration, sharp focus on the red dot, and dhyana, a very soft open focus to receive the rest of the image. And so what you may experience is the sharp, angular, 90-degree lines of the outermost part of this image, as regarded as the gates, kind of maybe moving in and out of perception. We may see the circles, the 3 circles as possibly moving, but again, and the same with the lotus petals and the 9 superimposed triangles. And again, there's nothing to do here. It's really just to focus on the bindu and receive the information from the outer spheres. This is a Shri yantra. The Shri yantra is a very powerful yantra for wanting, wishes, desires. So I will invite everyone here tonight to make a wish, set an intention or a sankalp. My intention for this evening, for gathering with all of you, is for education, for learning, curiosity, and interest. Education for all sentient beings that so desire it in the world. Education in health and in peace. So just observe your experience there in that moment. As we move forward, hold that intention that you may have created with you. And Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha is a salutation to all of you, the wisdom and the teacher in all of you, and an acknowledgement here of a few of the many teachers that I have in my life, mainly coming from the yogic lineage of Ganapati Muni. These scriptures, these sutras, these teachings have been recorded on these beautiful palm leaves, and in austerity are in possession now by one of my teachers, or probably some of my teachers, I should say. They keep emerging from the depths, from hiding to the Indian government. And we'll begin together with this quote by Terence McKenna: "Nature loves courage. This is the trick, the shamanic dance in the waterfall." So I thank you again for your courage in being here to speak of what may be considered a rather esoteric topic, yoga and Ayurveda, as relating to the mind. Our objectives today are to understand the fundamental science of both yoga and Ayurveda, to understand the Vedic conceptualization of mind, and to understand how one may incorporate the Vedic perspective of the mind into a clinical model for treatment and healing. So the Vedas, again, are science. It literally translates science. And the Cambridge Dictionary defines science as knowledge from the careful study of the structure and behavior of the physical worlds, especially by watching, measuring, and doing experiments. So the Vedas are ancient doctrines, extensive ancient doctrines of great knowledge, specifically about the earth. And it teaches through guidance, through hymns, philosophy, and ritual for daily living. It's believed to have been directly revealed to seers among the early Aryans in India and preserved originally by oral tradition. And the four chief collections are Rig Veda, Sama, Yagar, and Atharva Veda. So again, it is a science that was developed out of the Hindu Kush region. And this is why there is a confusion that it is a religion, but it is indeed a science, a way of life, a philosophy. Yoga, again, is one of the oldest, most diverse and complex spiritual philosophies. Many may be familiar with the 8 limbs. The aphorisms of the 8 limbs are highly detailed in the Rig Veda, and we'll discuss them as they apply to psychological treatment. Mantras such as hymns, chants, and melodies are in the Saman Veda, while the technical aspects of ceremony, such as the yantra that we just worked with, are part of the Yagar Veda. While Ayurveda, the science of life, is compiled mainly in the Atharva Veda. It is a complete holistic healing art that promotes an aligned system for a harmonious life that integrates body, mind, and spirit to create a pure mind. So we won't get so frightened of that word quite yet. We'll understand what this pure mind is about and how it's important for the cultivation of all. It utilizes the natural intelligence of food, herbs, resins, and minerals to promote optimum well-being and harmony of the individual in alignment with nature and the environment. Ayurveda is considered the mother science to Chinese, Greek, and Tibetan healing arts. And there's also evidence of trade with the Roman Empire of herbs. It is a system of bioindividuality that considers each person as a unique human and with variable constitution and makeup. So here I'd like to salute the great sage Dhanvantari. He's seen depicted here holding herbs in one hand, the sutras in another, perhaps a pot of potions and an instrument, a conch, to share sound with the creatures of the world. He's considered to be the Lord of Ayurveda, the holder of this wisdom. So while Ayurveda is a science dealing with matter, the matter of animals, plants, and minerals, yoga is the science of consciousness, so of chakras, light, and polarity. And the yoga psychology, again, is the spiritual healing. As we heal the mind, as we clear the mind, do we allow then the spirit to shine through freely? So in this way, the psychology of yoga allows for spiritual healing. The spirit is really nothing that needs to be healed. It just needs a way. And the mind sometimes has clutter in the way, as we will continue to discuss. And so clearing the mind, clarifying the mind will guide in the spiritual healing. So while we see the brain as physical substance in the body, and the physical properties of the brain are known as size, shape, texture, the neurochemistry, the electrical signals, again, the action potentials that shoot down the nervous channels, I will invite you all to begin to think about the mental properties of the brain, the thoughts and feelings, as also material in nature. This is not something we normally do because they're not concrete. They're not something that we can necessarily hold in our hand, but thoughts as words and thoughts as images do have material nature in regards to the Vedas, and feelings as they associate to vibration, the vibration of emotion, whether it be pain or pleasure, also have some sort of material nature, some sort of action within the body that is created in matter. So I will invite you to begin to think about the body as arising from the mind, and the mind as arising from something even more subtle, perhaps. We think oftentimes of sentience as existing in whole form. So the whole animal, the mushroom, the plant, the vegetable, the fruit, that may have a sentient form. And some botanists or microbiologists may ascribe sentience to the single cell organisms, the cells. But what about what lies behind the biomolecules, such as water, the atoms that create, for instance, a water molecule, the hydrogen and the oxygen? Do they have sentience? We have more and more science every day demonstrating that yes, it is true, they do. The work by Japanese Dr. Emoto demonstrates this. And we can question even further, do the particles that make up the atoms, the strings, the quarks, the electrons, the protons, do they? And from what are they arising? So again, these are great philosophical questions that we may ponder. This vacuum of space from which all is arising, does it itself have sentience? Is it sentient in nature? So the foundation of Ayurveda lies in the Samkhya philosophy of creation, which states that Purusha, right here, which can also be depicted as black, like this tamas is, dark, obscure, is unmanifested, formless, passive, beyond attributes, beyond cause and effect, space and time. Purusha is pure existence. And from Purusha arises Prakriti. It's the creative force of action that allows the source of form, manifestation, attributes, and nature. And from the dance of Prakriti, from this dance of consciousness, of the light of awareness, is the Mahad, the cosmic intelligence, or Buddhi. So again, we're stretching our minds here in even contemplating these ideas. So the Mahad is that conscious intelligence, that flowering of intelligence, the Buddhi. It can be considered the Akashic records, the great cosmic knowledge that we all possess. And through the filter of Maya, of illusion, through this reality, through the creation of reality, is the ahamkar. And the ahamkar is the ego, the sense of I am that exists in each one of us as individuals, that exists in each flower, in each bud, in each tree. And all of us are comprised of the three gunas. And gunas are qualities. And sattva is a stability, pure aspect, awakening, essence, and light quality that interacts with tamas, static, potential energy, inertia, darkness, ignorance, and matter through the rajas, which is dynamic movement. And we'll discuss this in more detail, these qualities and how they create the essence of each of us and the world that we exist around us. So again, sattva as clarity, intelligence, virtue, goodness, harmony, balance, and alignment is only able to see itself through the distortion of the tamas, the substance, the dull, dark, heavy, and inert. It's through this kind of kaleidoscopic projection on top of one another that we get all of the colors of the rainbow. So Rajas, again, is that energy, the change, the activity, and the turbulence. And we can, again, ascribe different feelings to different colors to help us understand what it is that we are emoting. This is especially effective when we're working with children. And again, the whole world is arising through the 5 elements. And in this system of Ayurveda, the elements that we utilize are earth, fire, water, air, and ether. I mention this because in various Eastern traditions, the elements that are used vary slightly, though these systems all overlay with one another. So again, we have more of a linear model of the scientific model of the generative vacuum producing the strings, quarks, whatever, into more solid structures. And our yogic model of Purusha, that formless cosmic awareness from which Prakriti, the cosmic light, arises. And there is the play in this dynamic spherical shape. And again, you'll see a lot of the images that I'll share are in this kind of spherical nature that allow us to contemplate the ideas of time. So we are all very familiar with this physical body that we are born into. Hopefully most of us like being associated with it, but many of the people that we work with may dissociate from their being, may not feel so strong of a connection with this physical being. We often interacting within one another. And throughout our conversation tonight, our discussion, I'll invite you to contemplate more this auric space. So this spherical auric space that we will discuss as the astral body as being this space where mind resides, and where mind resides as a subtle matter, that there's still some sort of material nature to it, that we are putting off pheromones, terpenes, these small aromatic molecules that are creating this auric space, and that some have the ability to even see in different light and color, sometimes form as well. The way that we describe it so beautifully in the Vedic sciences is as follows. We describe it as the 5 koshas, and the 5 koshas are 5 sheaths. I'll invite you to consider these sheaths as weaving within one another. So one does not lay on top of the other like an onion, but instead they are found within each other. So the physical body, again, is that manifest form that we call annamaya kosha, annam literally meaning food. So it's the food sheath that's made up by what we ingest into our body, what we put in as matter, as food, molecules, water, etc. And inside, this is one place where the philosophy of yoga may differ from the psychological and philosophical traditions that more of us are used to in the West, is the soul, the Jiva Atma resides within. And that Jiva Atma is, again, that light of cosmic consciousness. It is that animation and that illumination that differentiates an alive, beautiful, awake person from that who is deceased. So there's a body still in existence after someone passes, but it is the Jiva Atma that has moved on. And oftentimes it is thought that that Jiva Atma moves on with some material nature attached to it. And what is that material nature? It could be some elements of this astral body. So the astral body is comprised of 3 different sheaths. The 3 different sheaths are the pranamaya kosha, which is the energetic sheath. Prana is the essence from which the air, the breath, the circulation, the life force arises. So the best way to understand the pranamaya kosha is by thinking about a musician, a singer, somebody that utilizes their breath in practice. And we can think about our favorite singer or actor even as performing on a stage and filling the space, filling the stadium, filling an open football field with their energy through that prana. So again, it's this energetic sheath that can shift our energy by breath practices, by breath holding, by hyperventilation to either a place of discomfort or a place of more comfort. The Manomaya kosha is the mental sheath, and this is the sheath where all of our senses are assimilated. So they are first, again, this is really such a fascinating concept to begin to contemplate, because if we can consider that, for instance, sound, smell are actually assimilating in a mental sheath in this astral body, and then traveling into the nervous system, to the heart, to the gut, and then into the brain to deliver information that will allow us to act. Then we can better understand how it is that we may hear a voice and smell a fragrance in a certain direction, and our body knows how to move that way very clearly so that we can join our friends for dinner. Again, the same thing works with birds and animals in how they find their foods. It's these terpenes that are put off by the flowers in the environment that allow animals, creatures to find exactly where it is that they need to land for their meals as well. So this relates to our sense of sight, to all of the senses, assimilating in the Manomaya kosha and then coming into connection with the Annamaya kosha through the nervous system. The Vijnanamaya kosha is the intellectual sheath, and this is the sheath of knowing. This is where information about ourselves is held. So this is the information of who am I, where was I born, who is my family, what information have I learned through books, who do I know that I want to be? All of this type of information is in the Vijnanamaya kosha. And again, they're all interweaving with one another and connected to this basic framework of the physical body, the Annamaya kosha. This brings us down deeper into Ayurveda and speaking about the 5 elements and the 3 doshas as they are associated with these 5 koshas. Just to give you a deeper understanding of Ayurveda, it is a very complex science of the healing arts. Just as Western medicine has its various branches, so does Ayurveda. And today we will be speaking on the branch of spiritual healing. You may note that there's no branch of psychology or psychiatry. We do have an understanding of cranial-organomedicine, which is more like neurology and neuroscience, but that it's truly spiritual healing that we are guided towards in the system of Ayurveda when we are looking to heal the psychology, when we are looking to heal the mind. So Ayurveda is a system of elements, as stated. We call them Pancha Mahabhutas, 5 great elements. And we will see that they each work to strengthen each other. So Akasha is the vacuum of space that this whole play occurs in. Vayu is the air, which strengthens fire, Agni. Agni strengthens the earth, Prithvi, and Prithvi, the earth, strengthens the water, Jala. And in combination, you can see that Prithvi and Jala make a clay. So the earth and the water, when combined, make a clay. And this is Kapha. So this can be seen as our bones, as our skin, as our organs, everything that makes up physically who we are, that which we can palpate. And the water and the fire combine together to make things like acids and enzymes, the transformative elements of our being that allow for digestion, metabolism, what makes the food that we eat into the small particles of our cells, our neurotransmitters, etc. And the Akasha and Vayu mix together air in the ether as Vata. And that Vata element is what allows for movement, for circulation throughout the body. When everything is working in harmony, each of us is born with a constitution that has one or the other in predominance. So a Vata person may be more slight in figure, they may be taller or shorter, slender, and very airy, more like an elf or a fairy. Whereas a Kapha person may be very stout, rounded, grounded, with beautiful eyes and lustrous hair, very, very juicy, delightful skin. And again, just more still in their nature. Whereas a Pitta person, a fiery person, may have more of an active physique, maybe more of an athlete or a warrior type of person that needs a lot of movement in their lives. They may have red or blonde hair, and again, a sharpness in their eyes, a fire in their eyes. These 3 elements, these 3 these 5 elements, as they translate into the 3 doshas, can also be seen in the mind. So again, if the body is arising from the mind, and if we have a universal law in the Yoga Sutras in Ayurveda, that everything is arising from the mind, then these doshas also exist in the mind. And again, 1 or 2 may prevail in a particular constitution. So the vata energy is the energy of movement. It's creative and energetic. It's new ideas, new information, inspiration. So these people, again, that are really, really full of a million solutions for a single problem are more vata in their mind and the nature, very, very creative. It's also how we may conceptualize ideas come to different people at the same time around the world, as we have seen in various scientific endeavors in the world over time. A pitta mind is the energy of transformation. So a pitta mind is leadership, intellect, curiosity, wit, intelligence, again, very sharp-minded. They may be critical, judgmental, and if that edge becomes very, very sharp, it can be pointed into a way that is harmful. So sometimes an excess of pitta can lead into rage, anger, jealousy, frustration, irritability. It can become so sharp that it leads to suicidal ideation or homicidal ideation. Whereas a kapha mind is, again, that energy of construction, steady, nurturing, grounded, supportive, stable, very maternal, lunar, loving, holding, embracing. And in excess, it can become hoarding and greeting, very, very dull, tamasic again, as we talked about before, so dull that it can become lethargic, and we may experience a lethargic depression here. So I didn't go into the negative sides of vata because we'll discuss those a little bit later as we go into our examples. But if we can think about that windy quality as a gentle breeze feeling quite nice, but then again, that wind picking up and becoming very harsh and biting, maybe cold, and moving into like a hurricane or tornado type of wind, we can begin to see the destructive force that vata may create in the mind. So again, understanding that these 3 elements or these 3 doshas are all at play in the astral body. And if we do not deal with them in our mind, if we do not soothe them, if we do not manage them, align them, balance them in the mind, then there's room for the excess to seed into the body. And it seeds into the body, into this physical body, through what we call kavaigunya, or defective space. And this is when we start to see symptoms in the body, symptoms such as headaches, stomach aches, rashes, acne, joint pains, tumors, obesity, this type of thing, can show us where the excess in the mind is seeding into the body. However, as we are mainly mental health care workers, hopefully our clients and patients are clear in their body, and we are working with these energetic qualities in their mental spheres in the astral body. Actually, before we move on, I'd also like to mention here this causal body, the Anandamaya kosha, which we haven't really touched base on yet. So this 3rd body, the causal body of Anandamaya kosha, translates as the bliss sheath, because in the Vedic traditions, we had a responsibility for ourselves and others to cultivate the physical and astral body such that our mind was pure, that purity of mind that was clear of harm, that was clear of violence, because this causal body, the Anandamaya kosha, is shared space. It's shared communal space that we are all sourcing from. And just the same way that our beautiful earth is cluttered with trash, both on the surface and in the stratosphere, with all this satellite space trash of defunct satellites, our minds are the same way. So this collective causal body has been cluttered with the violence against ourselves, the violence against others, the just the horrific acts of injustices, of these the lack of awareness that continue to permeate our being, through, again, a complete lack of responsibility. It's a lack of responsibility that we are suffering at this point in time. So what we are working towards is creating a discipline, creating responsibility in our body, but also in our mind, so that we may facilitate this Anandamaya Kosha as a bliss sheath again, once again in the future to come. And it's not that it doesn't exist. It still exists. It's still there, and that we can still reach it and source it. And this is how we do still have beautiful inspiration and creativity and ideas in the world. It's just that it's cluttered. And so what we'll discuss further is how we are decluttering this, how we may declutter it. So the 3 stages of mental healing that we may use to help declutter are physical, cognitive, and spiritual. And again, these are interweaving, interwoven. We always meet people where they are, and we might start with one place and move to the next and then have to come back to the first. So the physical is breaking up the tamas and developing rajas. So moving from that mental inertia or even physical inertia to self-motivated action. So that may be things like drinking more water, exercising, cognitive, calming the rajas, developing sattva. So moving from self-motivated action to compassionate service. And the spiritual, perfecting sattva by moving from the outward compassion towards the inward compassion. And I write yoga here, but actually all 3 involve yoga. So this is the progression of the disturbed vata that we missed before. So again, a healthy vata is new ideas, new information, creativity, and being able to actualize all of those creative ideas that come through. However, what if we have a child that is in a 2nd grade classroom with 30 other children, and he's not able to, he doesn't have the resources available to him to move those creative ideas? That may create in his mind stress. And if there is no way to manage that stress in his family, in his household, that may compress further into fear in his mind, anxiety in his mind. And then all of a sudden, a teacher, a psychologist, somebody suggests, oh, perhaps he has ADHD. Oh, he's OCD. He has obsessions and compulsions. He's repeating all of these behaviors. And all of a sudden, he is on medication. If we can also see disturbed vata as creating bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, where we're actually projecting this information outward. Vata is that aspect of us that allows us to see this material nature, that gives us this sense of color. So it's the same gift that gives us an increased sense of sight, an increased sense of the world through the sensory information that we receive, that can also cause these challenges. So that's happening in the mind, and then it gets relayed into the physical body through the Majja Dhatu, our nervous tissue. So again, through the heart, through the gut, the nervous tissue of these organs, and relayed back to the brain, so that our brain carries out various functions, like, shaking in a chair, etc. So how do we clear the channels for illumination so that we have the clarity of consciousness coming forth? So for vata imbalance, and I'm bringing this up as example because many of us as a society are struggling with this anxiety, worry, stress, just as baseline, is identification. So identifying that there is an issue to begin with. And the second involves the treatment. So physical involves movement, breath work. This is just an idea of a treatment plan. The second part would be cognition, the cognitive, CBT, DBT, and then the spiritual may involve some visualization, primordial sound vibrations. So again, we'll work through another case study. Let's say that we are seeing a 23-year-old young woman with a history of ADHD. So, or it could be a young man. Maybe this boy has grown up now. And he's 23, he's in graduate school, he has a history of ADHD. He decided that he did not want to be on medication through college, and that he wanted to work on healing himself through diet and exercise. And he comes in presenting with panic attacks now. So he has an excess of the vata in the Majja Dhatu. So this is what we were talking about, the mind, things that were not properly operating in the mind because he's trying to graduate from college through a pandemic, has seeded now into his body. So we might see irregular, dry, fragile tissues, dry skin, brittle hair and nails, again, a dryness because of this excess of air quality. He may have excessive or irregular flow of his breathing patterns in session. He might react suddenly with quick and unmeasured responses to perhaps the air conditioner turning on or a car starting up outside. He has psychomotor agitation. He shifts his weight in session and he shakes his leg. He shakes his right leg. He rides his hands and plays with paper while he's in session with you. His speech is rapid, abrupt, it's unclear, it's tangential, circumferential, and exhausted. You feel exhausted and you see him as exaggerated, like almost as animated in a play. And he's also labile in session. This particular patient does not have any hallucinations or paranoia, and his memory is intact, thankfully. So how do we help this man, this young man with air, an imbalance of air? So again, the elements play in our bodies the same way that they play with each other in nature. So if we think about that hurricane, what stops the hurricane? If it's on water and it's developing speed, it immediately slows down when it hits land. So again, if we look at our chart here even, we can see that water strengthens air, earth strengthens water. So earth and water are these grounding forces that will allow the air quality to slow, to rest, to relax. So stage 1 of the treatment here, of our physical treatment, would be hydration. Abhyanga are good fats. So this is oleation internally and externally. Abhyanga is oleation externally and internal ingestion of good fats, such as nuts, seeds, avocados, good oils. Gentle movement, gentle walking, light stretching, asana again. So we have part of the 8 limbs coming up here, and just slowly, gently releasing the connective tissue. Next, pranayama or breath work. So paying attention to the breath, becoming aware, slowing it down, recognizing that we are in control of it, and perhaps song, singing, utilizing the vocal cords if that is in this person's toolbox. And somatization, so feeling. We can utilize tanmatra chikitsa, which we'll describe in a moment. Progressive muscle relaxation, increasing body awareness, such as posture, pace, etc. So again, it is a practice and it is an experiment, a life experiment for this person. So tanmatra chikitsa is a sensory therapy that integrates the offerings of the earth, of the various elements of the earth, with our senses. So this is basically the foundation and framework for puja in yogic traditions, or any sort of ritualistic religious tradition, ancient or otherwise. So we'll see that all religious traditions have some offering of flowers, fruits, leaves, or a deity made out of the earth, metal, stone, clay, crystal, etc. There's something to offer in terms of taste, water or wine. Touch, we will offer incense, sage, copal, frankincense, myrrh, anything that smokes so that we can see the smoke, experiencing the touch. And sound is ignited through bells, chimes, drums, or vocal cords, our own singing. Sight by candles, the flame of a candle, an oil lamp, of a huge bonfire, a fireplace, or the sunlight itself as it reflects off of the elements of our surroundings. So this practice can be a very short practice if we spend 30 minutes on each sense, or it can be a longer practice if we give it 5 minutes, 10 minutes for each sense, again, for each person to cultivate. And again, if we believe that air is our challenge, that we have a lot of this air quality and we need it to be balanced, and we decided that water and earth would be balanced, would help to balance it, then perhaps offering more of the senses of smell and taste will help to guide in that alignment process. So again, this is just to touch back on what koshas are being involved in this practice. So the whole entire astral body is activated in tanmatra chikitsa. Of course, Manomaya Kosha is integrating all of the sensory information of what you are offering on that space in front of you. The Pranamaya Kosha is bringing those offerings in through the breath. And the Vijnanamaya Kosha is developing a different knowing and understanding of a way of being. As we move through a healing process, whether it be of the mind or of the body, because again, it is all connected as we see here, we shed a way of being, we shed a previous way of knowing ourselves to open into a new persona, a new dynamism. And so that is what is being invited through the Vijnanamaya Kosha. So stage 2 is the cognitive treatment, We build trust during this part of the treatment. Trust, faith, again, these are the antidotes to the fear that we are all facing in the world today. So we take time, we listen, we affirm, we wait to advise. We perhaps even allow the patient and client to give us the information that they require as their advice. And we educate. We educate, especially by destigmatizing, by using language of biochemistry, elements, physics. We can use some of this yoga language if it feels accessible, of the koshas, of these sheets, something that is universally related for the person to help understand who they are within themselves. And in that, we empower responsibility. So again, through this understanding of the koshas, we can empower responsibility of the automatic negative thoughts, addressing the automatic negative thoughts as arising from old patterns, and introducing CBT, DBT, the Tanmatra Chikitsa, for instance, positive psychology and mindful practices that again will fuel and facilitate an expansion and illumination of the Anandamaya kosha, this mental bliss sheet that we all share. So it's constant redirection of thinking, setting goals, dreams, visualizing. Through the Yoga Sutras, we can look at the first two of the Eightfold Path, the yamas and the niyamas. Yamas, cultivation of integrity; niyamas, cultivation of discipline. And again, they are usually interpreted in the West as physical and in relation with other. But if we can again see this, understand yoga, this whole science as philosophy, and this philosophy, practice of philosophy as psychology, then we understand that ahimsa, nonviolence, is a nonviolence towards ourself in our own mind. Again, automatic negative thoughts are violent, they are harmful. So how do we shift that so that they are not harmful? Satya, truthfulness. What are we saying to ourselves that is truthful? And can we remove and eliminate what's not? Asteya, very important in this world that we live in right now, non-stealing. In this world of appropriation, cultural appropriation, appropriation of ideas, concepts, what can we give credit, who can we give credit to, so that we can feel, again, in integrity with what we are learning, assimilating, and sharing with the world. Brahmacharya, again, historically translates as a celibacy, but in this world, perhaps removing sexual violence, removing ideas, thoughts, images of sexual violence, maybe that we've seen through media or that we've lived through from our mind. How is that creating stronger integrity within each of us? Aparigraha, removing obsessions and coveting, again, usually historically would have been towards a person, like the coveting of a wife, a coveting of a spouse, or a mother even. And now in this day and age where we are so obsessed with material possessions, removing the obsessions with, a certain name brand, etc. How does this help us align again with the integrity of our being? And niyamas, the discipline, again, in the cognitive part of our therapy, is first saucha. Saucha translates as cleanliness, but cleanliness, when we cleanse the body, we are also cleansing the aura, and that allows us to harmonize. It allows us to align more within ourselves. And can we discipline ourselves into harmonizing, into santosha, into sitting with well-being? Can we discipline ourselves into tapas, the purification of heat? So most ancient practices have a purification process of sitting with the fire or sitting in a sauna as allowing toxicity to fall away. Svadhyaya, can we discipline ourselves for self-study on a daily basis, self-contemplation, reflection on what it is, how it is that we influence the world, how it is that we are influencing this shared mental space. And finally, Ishvari Pranidhara, surrender, a discipline in surrendering to the divine, to the great mystery, the great spirit, in antithesis to a control of the world around us. Can we surrender into the mystery, into the unknown, and therefore relax our mental sphere and allow that relaxation to fall into that physical Annamaya food body? And perhaps then, if we can join into that clarity of mind, that clarity of consciousness, different questions can arise, different ponderings and possibilities can arise. And one is, what is possible for the world in 3 generations? What is possible for the world in 3 generations that we would like to see? And how can we begin to walk towards that today? And this leads us finally to our spiritual treatment. So again, in this particular example of Vata imbalance, we may skip Pratyahara, the sensory transcendence. The work here would really be for embodiment. And for another person, perhaps the sensory transcendence would be available. But at this point in time, we could move to the Dharana Dhyana, which is what we began with. Concentration, the sharp concentration with the open focus meditation around it. So the idea of yantra was already discussed. Jyotirtrataka is a simple practice of focusing on a candle, on a flame. And again, we can have a sharp focus on that and then allow for the softness to override us. Kala meditation is a meditation on the empty space, the negative space. So the space between the clouds, the space between the branches on the tree, the negative space, the space between. So again, if we're looking at this flower, it could be the dark space, the space where the petals are not touching, the shadow space. We can also use sound vibration like mantra. Universal sound of Om is very fiery and expansive, where Shreem is contracted and lunar. So we have a breath here. And finally, we are seeing this in the other, in the opposite, as we are working. And the final step would be to surrender. So samadhi is a surrendering of the self into the divine. And it is in these moments that we feel this transcendence. And in our English language, we call this a noetic experience. So noetic translates as consciously logical from the Greek nous, meaning mind, intelligence, ways of knowing. And those of you who may be familiar with the Institute of Noetic Sciences will understand that that we experienced in the beginning with the yantra may have possibly been a noetic experience. And maybe something happened and we acknowledge that and we explore it further. It was very short, couple seconds, maybe a minute that we were allowed. Or we could deny the experience and say, oh no, nothing happened. There was nothing really special in that moment. Or if we stay on this path and this journey and explore, we may find a practice, maybe perhaps through the Tanmatra Chikitsa, as we cultivate it for ourselves. And maybe we enjoy that and we want to do it a few times in the day with nature, with our family, and we start to cultivate life as a practice. And at any moment, we can fall off the curve. We may continue looking for something better or forget that the practice is about an embodied feeling, that we're moving into, again, a sense of relaxation, calm, peace that's vibrating within us, that brings us down into a place that feels more restful. And then if we stay again on this journey, we might invite other people to come with us, our patients, our clients, our family members, our communities. We could fall off again thinking that we're Jesus or God at any time. But if we continue to live deeply with our neighbors in this shared community of our mental framework, again, this is like the person who texts you when you're thinking about them, then we can start to bring it more and more to the community for this collective transformation with our Mother Earth as she brings us along for this great ride. So I thank you so much. And I will leave you with this quote by Socrates: there's no learning without remembering. And the question I have here is, what is it that we are remembering? There is so much to remember. And is it possible to go deep and remember the truth of who we are, where we came from, and allow our learning to arise from those places more and more? A few references if you want to learn more about the koshas. David Frawley's Ayurveda and the Mind is a great reference. And if you'd like to learn more about the doshas and Ayurveda as it relates to the body and healing the body, Ayurveda, the Science of Self-Healing by Dr. Lad is very, very, very useful. I give it to all my patients. Of course, please reach out to me if you have any questions, if you have any further conversation and exploration. But otherwise, now I'll turn it over to Heather for questions that we have tonight.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Kailas. Any questions for Dr. Kailas? Aha. Okay. Do you use pulse diagnosis in your practice?
Yes, I do. I have become pretty good at seeing, being able to see through the body habitus and face what it is that is out of alignment, out of balance. But the pulse is always a very, very good tool to confirm, to affirm that which I've received otherwise.
Could you discuss insomnia?
Yes. So insomnia, again, in the Vedic lens, would be an excess of this vata. It depends on where the insomnia is arising from. If we are not able to fall asleep, so if we're not sleeping because we're actually not able to fall asleep, it's oftentimes a movement of the mind. So a movement of conversation, information from the day, from the days, from tomorrow, things that have not happened, a projection of what may happen that is keeping us awake. So the treatment there again would be a stillness of the mind. We can also again balance the mind. So if we have an excess of space, again, we balance with minerals, we balance with earth element. So earth element is mineralization. So again, any sort of we use True Hope a lot in my practice, but any sort of compound that has a balanced formulation of minerals can be really helpful. But even having a small snack, like having some nuts or blueberries before bedtime, can help again ground that. If it's very severe insomnia, obviously we're going to need a little bit more help, but it's all individual, case by case, and it depends on what's causing the insomnia, of course.
Okay, and a follow-up to that, what about herbs for vata insomnia?
For vata insomnia again. So it's a very general question, and it would be very general for each person. So one thing that we have to understand is that we are always moving both the mind and anything that's processing through the body. So the mind is being processed through the body as well. So if we are, and we see this through how the stools are coming out. So if the stools are coming out dry, we would use a different herb than if the stools are coming out as loose as diarrhea, or if they are kind of normalized. So it would really depend on where that individual is. It's a hard question to answer just in, very general scenario such as this.
Okay.
We generally start with food. I think roots, if we wanted to just use food as opposed to specific herbs, we could talk about roots. Dashamula is an herb. It means 10 roots. That may be a good place to start if the stools are dry.
Okay. And where does ashwagandha fit in?
So ashwagandha is also a root. Again, it depends on many things, many factors. It's generally safe. I would say that using it as a tincture, this is really where it's coming up for me in my practice. Using it as a tincture is probably not very effective. Ayurveda, if we think of these things as buildings, so ashwagandha is a root that is building, that we would need to use greater quantities. In general, in India, people use much greater quantities than we do here in the US. We could use it again as an adjunct in our food, in our, I think it mixes well into an oatmeal or a smoothie, drinks like that. It could be pretty safe. And I believe that it may be part of some Dashamula formulations as well, of the 10 roots.
Okay. They're asking about the dose of ashwagandha.
So we're talking about tablespoons. It depends again on what else you may be taking, what else your patients or clients may be taking. Has it been useful for them? And oftentimes it's not the only root that's going to be helpful. It'll be helpful if there is a variety of roots that are on board.
Okay. Hopefully I'm interpreting this correctly. How the chakras are connected with vata, pitta, and kapha and imbalance.
Okay, yeah, that's difficult interpreting that question. How are the chakras related to vata?
Connected with vata, pitta, and kapha and imbalance.
An imbalance. That's interesting. I've never conceptualized the chakras as connected to the doshas, because the chakras are almost what the doshas may be arising from. So the chakras are really moving on the energetic sphere, on the energetic plane, where the doshas do apply to the mind as well as the body. I would say that the lower, we can associate chakras with glandular organ systems, and we might say that lower chakras may be associated with the heavier doshas, whereas the higher ones may be associated with lighter, like vata, but I don't conceptualize them at all. I think chakras is a completely different topic. I've never heard of them being associated with doshas in that way. So that's an interesting question. Deserves contemplation.
Sure. Okay. You talked about the pitta becoming so sharp that it could cause SI and HI. How do you decrease that sharpness?
So the way that we balance heat, again, consider how you would balance it in nature. And we can go back to our chart as well. So what puts out fire? It's similar to vata. You can either put earth on fire. If you put ash on fire, it'll go out. If you put water on fire, it'll go out. Oftentimes, if we apply air to fire, it inflames, it ignites more. So oftentimes what we do see in our society today is a combination of a vata pitta imbalance. It's the flame being fed by the dryness, by the air, by the windiness. And so it oftentimes is pulling back the heat and then also pulling back the dryness. It's pretty sequential in process, but basically we want to cool the system. So we can use cooling foods, a lot of hydration again, and earth element again can help to soothe that fire, to tame that fire.
Okay. Have you used a josti with your patients before?
I'm not sure what that is. Let me see.
Josti? Josti?
Well, I do practice Jyotish. I'm not sure if that's what they're talking about. So Jyotish is the Vedic astrology that's looking at the charts. I'm not sure if that's what they're talking about.
In the meantime, someone was asking about Ayurvedic training for practitioners. Are there courses that you're aware of that you can recommend?
Yes. So both of the previous people that I mentioned, David Frawley and Dr. Ladd, they both have schools. Both of them are online now. The Ayurvedic Institute is out of Albuquerque, and the American Institute of Vedic Studies is out of Santa Fe. They both offer a vast, extensive online curriculum that is very easily accessible to a Western mind and a Western audience. There are, of course, teachers in India as well, for those who want to go more directly to source. Punarnava is a really great school. Maitreyi Vedic Village, Dr. Anand in India. So there are many, many resources out there. These two, I think, again, American Institute of Vedic Studies and the Ayurvedic Institute here in New Mexico are very accessible.
Okay, great. Do you use traditional treatments in your practice as well, like medications?
Yes, most of the time, if people come to me on medications, I keep my license because I will continue to prescribe those medications. I have kind of a niche practice where I help people come off of medications. It's one of the reasons that people come to me is to either lessen their medications because of side effects or because they're not necessarily functioning the way they used to, and they're looking for deeper healing. But I definitely keep my license so I can continue to prescribe the medications while we are moving forward. Oftentimes, very, very low dose antipsychotics are very effective for people that have diagnoses of schizophrenia or bipolar disorder with psychotic features in accordance with these practices as well. Very rarely, if ever, have I had to start medication on someone that's medication naive.
Okay, great. All right. Well, we don't have any further questions for Dr. Kailas. We will go ahead and wrap up. Thank you so much, Dr. Kailas. It was a wonderful presentation, a breath of fresh air and a rotation. Very cool.
Thank you, Heather, and thank you, Dr. Greenblatt, and thank you all of you in attendance. I look forward to speaking with all of you again.